The High Court rules Filipino and Panitikan are no longer required subjects in college, as these are already taught in senior high school. But there are fears this could erode nationalism among the youth. Good evening, I'm Ruth Cabal. This is On the Record. Our guests for this episode, Dr. Rowie Madula, convener of Alyansa ng mga Tagapagtanggol ng Wikang Filipino or Tanggol Wika, and ang Edukasyon Representative Bong Belaro. Commission on Higher Education Chairman Popoy De Vera is also joining on the phone. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ruth.
So the Supreme Court has ruled with finality that CHED's Memo 20 is valid and constitutional. Ibig sabihin, isa doon sa mga features nito ay yung Filipino and Panitikan is no longer required for college. So we have on the line si Chairman Popoy. Unahin muna natin siya. He's joining us from New York. Good evening, sir, from Manila.
Good morning. I'm here in Washington, D.C.
Washington na pala. Okay,
having
sir.
meetings with the U.S. Department of Education officials and different American universities.
Okay. Sir, unahin na namin kayo kasi medyo mahirap yung linya eh. So what's gonna happen now na sinabi na ng Supreme Court na valid and constitutional itong Memo 20?
Well, what's going to happen now is what should have happened some time ago. Before the case was filed in the Supreme Court to restrain the Commission on Higher Education. You know, Ruth, this issue has been ongoing for maybe about 8 years now, even before I was appointed to the Commission on Higher Education. It's been a long process, and the discussions on where Panitikan and Filipino should go preceded me in the commission. This was a discussion that was done between the Department of Education, between CHED, between universities, and with education experts when they were formulating the K-12 program. So I have no intention of rolling back what has happened in the past 8 years unless there is a compelling reason to do so. And the Supreme Court has already affirmed what the Commission on Higher Education did. And I call on everyone to now respect the decision of the Supreme Court and allow the universities now to implement their new revised curriculum and now develop these programs.
To begin with, sir, why did CHED feel na hindi na kailangan itong Panitikan and Filipino subjects in college as part of the general education courses?
Because in the discussion of the K-12 before, when you put senior high in place, senior high should be equivalent to what is taken up in the first 2 years of university. That is the general direction. So the courses that you take, the preparatory courses that you take in university are supposed to be taken up already in senior high. So a graduate of senior high school in the Philippines should be university ready. That means at the university level, what the students should be taking up are already major courses that they take up to finish a degree. That was how the K-12 program and how the K-12 law was formulated. And so it's not just Filipino and Panitikan that has been moved to senior high, but also other courses like algebra, for example, is now in senior high, so that the mathematics that is in university is called mathematics in the developing world or in the real world. And this is now application of math.
Okay, Chairman,
that is the general principle.
Okay, Chairman, pero ibig sabihin ba nito hindi na bawal nang magturo? Voluntary ba ito? How will this happen with the universities?
Hindi bawal.
Opo.
No? The Supreme Court decision clearly said that that is the discretion of universities using their academic freedom. Remember, what CHED issued, yung policies and guidelines for the new curriculum, is what is called the basic one, minimum standards. So we have issued PSGs for all degree programs as the minimum standard. It is up to the universities to enhance this curriculum by adding whatever courses they feel are important for the different degree programs. And so there is nothing that stops a university from incorporating Panitikan or Filipino. That is part of their academic freedom. And that is what the universities also argued when they supported the Commission on Higher Education in this particular case. So I think that's what many people don't understand. What we have sent out, or what we have approved as curriculum, is what is called minimum guidelines or minimum components of the curriculum. It is up to the universities to add whatever subjects they want. That's why I said some universities have already incorporated additional language courses, not necessarily Filipino, but languages in their respective localities, for example. And that is up to the universities to do.
Okay. Chairman, yung isa sa main argument nila, baka daw lalo lang ma-erode ang nationalism among the youth pag tanggalin ito sa college.
Yeah, but nationalism is not created only by language. That has to be understood. That is that is a debate that we can engage in, but I think you have to have another program to debate about nationalism. It's not a one-to-one correspondence.
Okay. Chairman, isa pa yung mawawalan daw ng trabaho ang libo-libong teachers. Kasi parang, we will discuss this later with the other advocates here, but we want you to just address that first, sir.
Well, that happened to all the affected faculty members when the K-12 program was created by law. What government did was to create what is called a K-12 transition fund. And this fund was distributed between the Department of Education, CHED, and the Department of Labor to assist the affected faculty members. For example, in the case of CHED, we assisted the affected faculty members by offering that they take up graduate studies during the transition period. In the case of the Department of Labor, they assisted affected faculty members if they lost their jobs, for example. In the case of DepEd, they assisted faculty members for those who want to move over to senior high. And this fund is still there. It is still alive now. The Commission is very ready to help the affected faculty members if they want to do retooling in terms of what they teach. They can go into continuing professional education. They can finish their degree programs during the transition period, and we have funds available for that purpose. This is how we assisted all the other faculty members affected in the subjects that were put in senior high.
Okay. Marami na tayong narinig na points ni CHED Chairman Popoy de Vera. We go to our guests here in the studio. We have Tanggol Wika and si Congressman Belaro. Ano yung point muna ng Tanggol Wika? Because you were the first who petitioned for a TRO against yung memo ng CHED.
Yung sinasabi ni Chairman de Vera, no? Napakahaba na yung laban ng Tanggol Wika. It has been 8 years. Ang Tanggol Wika ay nabuo dahil doon sa pag-aalis na dinedenay ng CHED. No? Inalis nila ang Filipino sa kolehiyo. Sa CMO20, ito ay naglalatag ng New General Education Curriculum. Naghahalatag ito ng mga 8 core courses. When we say core courses, these are courses that will be taken by all the students regardless of their course. No? Sabihin, it's the identity of the Filipino youth na gagraduate sa isang Philippine school. At yun yung ating tinututulan doon sa CMO20. Nakalulungkot kasi 8 taon nang pinaglalaban ng mga advocates ng Tanggol Wika. Ang Tanggol Wika ay binubuo ng hindi lang ito mga professors ng Filipino, no? Kundi ito ay mga students cultural activist, mga national artist, no, na naniniwala na dapat ay patuloy na pinauunlad, patuloy na tinuturo at tinatalakay ang wika, ang Filipino at panitikan sa antas kolehiyo.
Ba't sabi ni Chairman kanina, nasa senior high na yan naka-incorporate na yan dun sa curriculum ng K-12.
Parang hindi nila maintindihan na iba ang senior high sa college. Senior high is still high school. It's under DepEd. It's under the basic education. College is college. It's a university. Students are expected to produce knowledge. No? Sa senior high, sa elementary, ito ay pag-develop ng mga skills. Ang tertiary level, something na we take part in the production of knowledge. So in terms of research, very intensive ang research ng mga college subjects na ibang-iba doon sa ginagawa sa senior high. Ang tanong natin, bakit kinakailangan manatili yung Filipino sa kolehiyo? Dahil unang, Filipino ay kinakailangan pang paunlarin. No? Nasa proseso pa siya ng yung intellectualization of language. Yung para ma-intellectualize ang language, kinakailangan ginagamit siya in a higher level, higher thinking, sa mas mataas na antas, sa iba't ibang mga disciplines and areas. Mathematics, sciences, engineering, or law, magamit yung language. At maaaring Filipino, may pangangailangan na gamitin po siya at talakayin doon sa antas kolehiyo.
Okay. Tanong natin as an advocate for education, si Congressman Vilaro. Anong stand niyo with this?
Let us put it in proper context, the words of the good chairman. I think the context is the recent Supreme Court decision, which put finality on the various petitions filed before the Supreme Court. And to summarize, it addressed at least 3 issues. One is the use of Filipino and Panitikan in the college curriculum. The other one is the legality of senior high school and the kindergarten law. And the third one is the use of the mother tongue policy. Now, the position of one ng Education Party List on these 3 issues is that on the first, we have a qualified position as an advocate and on the legality. Number 2, on the senior high school, we affirm it. And on the use of the mother tongue, we oppose it.
Okay. Kasi banggitin na natin, lawyer din kasi si Congressman Pero pagpapatuloy natin mamaya yan, kasi isa din sa nababanggit na sa Constitution, kailangan natin, di ba, ipagtibay pa rin yung paggamit ng Pilipino, di ba? So babalikan natin yung diskusyon na yan. We'll pause for a quick break. Keep it here on CNN Philippines. You're watching On the Record on CNN Philippines. CHED Chairman Popoy de Vera is still with us from Washington, D.C. Sir, baka pwede i-address nyo lang yung mga binanggit ng ating guests here in the studio, including Tanggol Wika na yung nag-petition sa Supreme Court. They're saying kasi dapat tuloy-tuloy daw ang paglinang dito sa Filipino language. Kaya gusto nilang masama pa rin siya sa college, sir.
Okay, number 1, pwede namang ipagpatuloy yan ng mga individual na mga pamantasan. Halimbawa, ang UP, meron siyang language policy that was started during the time of President Abueva. Tuloy-tuloy naman sa UP yan. Yan ay bahagi ng academic freedom ng isang pamantasan. So we leave that to the university. So pwedeng i-develop yan ng individual universities. Ikalawa, pag sinabi mong i-develop ang language, para sa akin, hindi lang dapat Pilipino. Pwedeng i-develop yung mother tongue, pwedeng i-develop yung other Filipino languages. I am urging universities to start teaching courses or subjects not just on Filipino languages but ASEAN and Asian languages, for example, para madagdagan yung competencies ng kanilang mga estudyante. At handa yung komisyon na tulungan yung mga universities halimbawa na gusto mag-develop ng language policy. We are ready to help them if they so ask the assistance of the Commission on Higher Education. But we will not require it. Kasi nga, sinustain na ng Supreme Court ang posisyon ng Commission on Higher Education pagdating dyan.
Okay. Yung Congressman Vilaro, you're a lawyer. Di ba nakalagay din kasi sa Constitution na yung merong provision sa Constitution na the government shall take steps to initiate and sustain the use of Filipino as a medium of official communication and language. Ano ba ibig sabihin nun?
Yun po ang sinasabi ko kanina, we have a qualified position with respect to the decision of the Supreme Court. As a lawyer, we kind of expected it because the Supreme Court, under the scheme of our government, the function is just to interpret the laws. And then the executive which executes the laws, and then the legislature which does the laws. So under that scheme, it is understandable why the Supreme Court came out with that position. It just interpreted that the CHED, under the Higher Education Act, Republic Act 7722, has the discretion to come out with such a listing of core subjects, and left it to the universities to decide whether to include Filipino or Filipino in Panitikan. But that's the point. As an advocate, we wish that the Supreme Court would have had been more proactive in its interpretation of the law, because there is also basis for it. Under Article 14, Section 6 of the Constitution, the state is mandated to sustain the development of Filipino as a language of instruction. When you say sustain, you have to create an atmosphere whereby it would be sustainable. When you make it discretionary in the part of the higher education universities to their discretion, you create an atmosphere whereby it's no longer sustainable in the future. And perhaps in the future, it would create a situation whereby it would be the same thing as Latin. It becomes archaic.
Ikaw, Rowan.
Bagamat nalungkot kami in general doon sa decision ng Supreme Court, no? But actually it recognizes the idea that government agencies has a mandate to develop the Filipino language. Sinasabi doon na dapat pauunlarin ng lahat ng ahensya o ng pamahalaan ang Filipino. Kaya yung sinasabi ni Chairman De Vera na parang bala kayo dyan, na yung mga universities ang magde-decide kung maglalagay ng Filipino o hindi, parang hindi tinutupad ng CHED ang kanyang mandate to develop the Filipino as a language, hindi lang bilang medium of instructions kasi matagal lang nakalagay yung medium of instructions. But in reality, when we look at the universities, ano bang in general ginagamit na language? It's English, no? Kahit pa nakalasa sa Constitution yan, in practice, talong-talo yung Filipino.
Pero yung sinasabi kanina ni Chairman na para maging mas competitive, di ba, ina-encourage niya pa nga yung ibang languages or even dialects, and sinasabi niya dapat university ready when they graduate from senior high school.
Yun nga ang problema. Ngayong yung mga estudyante namin na hindi pa nga K-12 compliant ay problematic na pag pumupunta ng kolehiyo. No? May kakulangan na doon sa competency nila doon sa articulation ng mga ideas in the Filipino language. No? Kaya doon pa lang problematic na siya. At the same time, yung globally competitive, I was part of a collaborative project, research project with 5 Southeast Asian countries from Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Singapore. At ingit na ingit ako sa kanila kasi sa kanila hindi na usapin yung pagkakaroon ng subject ng kanilang national language sa core curriculum ng kanilang tertiary education. Marami kaming list ng mga universities abroad na ang kanilang subject, ang kanilang core courses, naka-include talaga yung pag-aaral ng panitikan at ng kanilang wika. At isa pa, marami rin nakalulungkot na maraming mga universities abroad, they actually offer Filipino language and Filipino literature sa tertiary level. May mga kasama kami mga professors sa Filipino, nasa Korea ngayon, nasa Japan, nasa China, nasa Beijing, nasa US, because they're teaching Filipino language and culture sa mga universities. At dito sa Pilipinas, ito ang ginagawa ng CHED.
So moving forward, anong plano ng Tanggol Wika? With finality na daw, sabi ng Supreme Court eh.
We're still thinking of, not thinking, but we're filing a second motion for consideration this June 11. So aside from that, isa lang yun sa mga steps. Alam namin hindi yun ang pinakasolusyon. Kasi ang mahalaga dito yung dialogue, yung discourse eh. Dahil naniniwala talaga kami, yung usapin ng wika, hindi lang usapin ng gramatika, kundi usapin ito ng identity, ng nasyonalismo, binabanggit kanina, ng pagka-Pilipino natin.
Okay.
So, yun.
Si Congressman ay may final na bill para maayos itong usapin na to.
A second motion for reconsideration under the rules, Supreme Court is not duty-bound to entertain it. It will just note it. So we believe that the better position would be to file bill, and in fact we did. It's House Bill 9006, which mandates the Commission on Higher Education to include Filipino and Panitikan among the core subjects in the college curriculum.
So pwede
discretion should be
ito yung
removed.
pinapakita natin yung inyong bill, no? So how will that work? Pwede bang gawin yon ng CHED na mag-i-impose na naman siya? Parang babalik ta rin niya yung sarili niyang order. Parang ganon, di ba?
Actually, it's because of the present state of the law. Under the Higher Education Act, Republic Act 7722. The CHED is mandated to supervise higher education in the country. And part of that supervision is a discretion to recommend courses in the college curriculum. That's what happened. When they recommended courses for the college curriculum, they did not include Filipino in Panitikan.
Yes.
That's what happened. Of course, as an advocate, we believe that perhaps the CHED, the Commission on Higher Education, should consider the spirit of the constitutional provision that when you sustain something, you have to develop an atmosphere of sustainability.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but of course, if that is the situation, that there's a legal basis for the CHED's position, I think the best way is to come out with legislation that will really prevent them from interpreting it
Pag may
otherwise.
batas na, no? Okay. We'll be back again after a quick break. Keep it here on CNN Philippines. Welcome back. This is On the Record on CNN Philippines. So nagsalita na nga ang Korte Suprema na hindi na required ang Filipino at Panitikan sa college. But Chairman De Vera is still with us. Chairman, ang sinasabi kasi ng Tanggol Wika, they will file a second motion for reconsideration. Ano po talaga ngayon ang posisyon ng CHED?
Nasa sa kanila yan. We respect whatever moves they will make. But as far as we are concerned, the Supreme Court has already said CMO can be implemented. Now, just two last points before we end. No? Number one, sabi ng Tanggol Wika, sa mga ibang bansa, itinuturo yung Pilipino doon sa mga universities. Totoo po yan. Kasi nakikita nila yung kahalagahan ng Pilipino. Pero yan ho ay hindi minamandate o hindi inuutos ng pamahalaan. Yan ho ay discretion ng mga pamantasan in the exercise of their academic freedom. Pwede ding mangyari sa Pilipinas yan. No? Ikalawa, alam mo, the way forward for this, to me, no, is not to pass a law that will mandate it again. The way forward is, let us review the K-12 law. Kasi doon makikita kung ano ang implementasyon na nangyari doon sa paglagay ng basic education o yung general education sa senior high. Ngayon, kung makita natin, pag ni-review yung K-12 law na talagang hindi na ituturo ito, hindi nagde-develop ito ng competencies ng mga bata, saka natin pag-usapan kung ibabalik ito sa university level. Huwag yung pag hindi nakuha sa Supreme Court, ipipilitin naman natin sa ibang paraan. No?
Okay.
So I think everyone should now review the K-12 law and see how it is implemented. No? And then
Okay.
finally, i-reiterate ko lang, handa yung Commission on Higher Education na tulungan yung mga pamantasan na gusto mag-develop ng kanilang language policy, mag-improve ng Filipino at Panitikan kung kanilang ituturo. Kami bukas
Okay.
diyan, yan ang aming interpretasyon kung paano namin tutulungan ang pag-unlad ng lengguwahe.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. And final words naman from our guests.
Siguro dalawang punto bago yung aking final words. Una, nais ko sagutin yung sinasabi ni Chairman tungkol sa kanilang transitional program. Napakaraming mga teachers ang naapektuhan ng simpleng isang papel, isang CMO na nilabas ng CHED. Marami na displaced ng mga faculty, marami na displaced ng mga teachers. Sinasabi lang may transitional program sila. Pero marami kami mga estudyante sa graduate program sa university na pinanggalingan ko ang nabaon sa utang dahil sa ang tagal-tagal ng pag-release ng budget ng CHED. It's a mess. Pangalawa, sinasabi ni Chairman De Vera na hayaan ng mga universities. Hindi niya yata alam, matagal lang sinabi ni Renato Constantino na ang sistema ng edukasyon sa Pilipinas ay commercialized, colonialized, and elitist. Hindi nila ituturo ang Filipino. Panghuli, nais namin kondinahin yung marahas na dispersal ng mga kabataan kanina nagprotesta sa harap ng CHED. At asahan ng CHED, marami pa kami protestang ilalapag tungkol dito.
Okay, Congressman.
Just 3 points. We in education, one ang education party list, one of our legislative agenda is the promotion of nationalism and love of culture, Filipino culture. Now, that is why we support the position that Filipino in Panitikan should be placed in the college curriculum. Now, the 3 points I'd like to make is that first, if you love something, you have to give it time. And the best manifestation of showing love for the Filipino language is to elevate it in a college curriculum, to intellectualize it, to make it grow, to sustain it, and to create a condition by which it could be studied for purposes of scholarship.
Okay.
The second thing is that magkaiba po yung basic education and college education. As the good chairman probably is very an authority on this. Senior high school, the competencies are different. In higher education, is supposed to be scholarship,
Okay.
research. And the third point is that yung pong sa dapat nating yung pong walang one-to-one correspondence, yung language and nationalism, it may be true that there's no one-to-one correspondence, but language is still the best distillation of what is the best in a culture. And it's
okay.
why these two, we have to install Filipino and Panitikan in the college curriculum.
Okay, thank you very much to our guests, Roy Madula, Congressman Bong Belaro, and CHED Chairman Popoy De Vera. Maraming salamat. That's On the Record tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Ruth Cabal.